Today we're going to do two suttas from the Sutta Discovery, volume 44, that is ST 44.4 and 0.5, chapters 4 and 5. The sutta title is Dharma Vihari Sutta, number 1 and number 2. There are two suttas of the same name. And the title translated as the one who lives the Dharma. Dharma means the true teaching. Vihari means someone who lives in the Dharma, someone who practices the Dharma throughout his life. And this is from the Anguttara Nikaya, the Book of Fives, Sutta number 73 and 74. So A5 73 and A5 74. These two suttas are very similar. You might say they are identical except for one line. The lines are spoken differently, but the sense is the same. We will find out what that line is in a moment. The essential teaching in these two suttas is that we all should meditate. What does it mean to meditate? Sometimes we have the idea that we must sit very long hours, even 18 jhanas, right? There are two big problems here. Number one, not many of us can really sit very long, whether you are layman or monk. Well, even if you sit very long, doesn't mean you might attain jhana. You could be daydreaming. But the good thing about meditation, even if you're daydreaming while you're meditating, you find it is peaceful. It's better than breaking the precepts, for example. So there is benefit there, even if you just try to meditate. Then on the other hand, there are those who like to talk about deep meditation, about jhana. They even claim to attain jhana, because there's no way for us to know these things. In fact, it is not safe, so to speak, to tell others about our jhana experience or even to hint at them. We can say that we feel very happy, very peaceful, but the idea is not to publicize this kind of experience, because number one, we might give others a wrong impression that we have attained certain levels of awakening or certain levels of understanding, which we ourselves do not really know about. We could delude ourselves and think that, wow, we actually have attained all these high levels. So, if you are peaceful, people will know it, people will sense it. If you are good and kind, people will know it. So we need not publicize it, we need not talk about it. In fact, if you study psychology, if you're a good reader of people, you know people like to talk about their meditation experience, even hint at them. There's some sense of trying to project themselves, trying to, in sociology we say, trying to get people to attribute charisma to them, and in that way have a bigger following, have greater respect by others. So that's not what meditation is about. We meditate to be at peace with ourselves, and if we're at peace with ourselves, people can see that and they also feel that peace, and they also want to be peaceful, not to worship us, not to idolize us. That's not what meditation is about. Remember what the Buddha said in his last hours in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta: the supreme worship is not to adore him even with heavenly miraculous flowers falling from the sky, or sandalwood wafting in the wind, and celestial music playing, and so on and so forth. That's not the supreme worship. The supreme worship is your own practice, keeping the precepts, sitting down to meditate, to get peace with yourself, even for a short moment. In that sense, the Buddha says, you are living the Dharma, you're practicing inner peace. The word for meditation here in this sutta is called Ceto Samatha, mental calm. Okay, so notice what's interesting here. The sutta refers only to calmness, so it seems. Again here, we should not assume too technically that that's all it means. It means to meditate samatha, just to be at peace with ourselves, that's all. We got to ask ourselves, what's the purpose of samatha? What's the purpose of a calm mind? The purpose is to see wisdom, is to cultivate insight. Right? So it goes without saying. Of course we can cultivate calmness just like that, without making special effort to go into insight, so to speak, the vipassana aspect, if you like. But when you're calm and peaceful, you will naturally be able to see yourself, understand your mind more clearly. So that understanding aspect is insight. It comes naturally. So you don't have to be so ritualistic to say, okay, this is samatha, this is vipassana. Although as you become better in your meditation, you will notice all these aspects of your meditation. But when you're meditating, you just meditate. You don't measure your meditation. Because if you measure your meditation, then it is not meditation, it is measuring. So just let go. Meditation is a kind of renunciation. Renunciation is, in a sense, another word for non-measuring. It is another word for not identifying with this and that. There's another very ancient and beautiful word called atamayata. There is an essay on this in the Dharma website, which you can read if you like. So, in other words, meditation is just be present with yourself right now, be at peace with yourself. If you are listening to this talk, you are listening peacefully, letting the Dharma sink inside you, and this peacefulness arises in you. This teaching, of course, comes from the Buddha. I'm inspired with the teaching. You should be inspired with the teaching too. So you practice in that way, you will find that peace. It does not come from me. It comes from you yourself, within yourself, because of your connection with the Dharma. This is another way of talking of self-refuge. So with that introduction, let us look at the sutta itself. In the Dhamma Vihara Sutta 1, 573, the sutta starts right away and says, Then a certain monk approached the Blessed One. Having saluted the Blessed One, he sat down at one side. Sitting thus at one side, the monk said this to the Blessed One. One who lives the Dharma, one who lives the Dharma. Okay, Dhamma Vihari iti, Dhamma Vihari iti. Bhante, so it is said. In what way, Bhante, is a monk one who lives the Dharma? Okay? I notice the word monk is mentioned here. Whenever you see the monk mentioned in this kind of context, it is just a kind of, we call it a synecdoche, a keyword to represent all those listening to Buddha, all the disciples of the Buddha, especially those interested in practice. Because the monks are addressed first, they are the most committed practitioners. So it refers to you and I. The Buddha is addressing you and I through the monks. But the monks are the ones who are committed to protecting the Dharma by practicing the Dharma, internalizing the Dharma, and becoming examples to us by their own inner peace and outer radiance. So, who is Dhamma Vihari? Then the Buddha replies. The Buddha gives 5 points. That's here because this is from the book of 5, so you find there are 5 points which related to the Dhamma Vihari. Point 1, the Buddha begins by saying, Here, Bhikshu, a monk learns or masters the Dharma as the discourses or sutta, the discourses with verses or gaya, the prose expositions or karana, the stanzas or verses, this gatha, the inspired sayings or dana, the thus said sayings, iti uttaka, the birth stories, jataka, the marvelous accounts, Abhuta Dharma, the catechisms. Catechism is questions and answers, Vedana. Okay, so this is the first definition. This person masters all these 9 aspects of the Buddha's teaching. Navanga Sattu Sasana, the 9-fold teaching of the teacher. Now once you see a list like this, we know that by this time that this sutta is being taught, all these categories of Dharma already existed. This couldn't be the first, unlikely to be the first period. Very likely it's the second period of the Buddha's ministry. Probably somewhere in the last 25 years, we can safely say that, when lots of teachings have been given, and then people know them so well, the monks began to classify them into different kinds of teachings. So in a sense, this is a late sutta, but it's a canonical sutta taught by the Buddha in the Buddha's own time. Even if this sutta was composed later after the Buddha's passed away, it's based on what happened during the Buddha's own time. So, but this is only the first part, okay? So the Buddha says, okay, this monk is able to master all these aspects of the teaching as theory, or what's called Pariyatti Dhamma. Then the Buddha continues, he says, he passes the day mastering them, right? So he spends the day practicing all this, remembering all these different aspects of the teaching. But he neglects meditative solitude, and he does not engage in internal mental calm. This is the key line. He masters the theoretical teaching, the suttas, or if you like, the Tipitaka, but he does not go into solitary retreat. Now here, solitary retreat doesn't mean you need to go to the forest. You can sit in your own room, basically spending time with yourself, away from the crowd. Early Buddhism is a teaching which teaches us to get out of the crowd. The crowd never thinks, because it's a crowd. So many people, they just move along in their own directions. And very often the crowd goes in the wrong direction. The crowd has no eyes, so to speak. So if you are following the crowd, you might meet the same fate as the crowd. So if the crowd is going the wrong way, it's better for you to get out of the crowd and go your own way, even if you must be alone. The Buddha did just that. The Buddha got out of the crowd of ancient India and decided to find the truth for himself, and he discovered it. That's why it's called the Buddha. That's why we take him as our teacher. We take refuge in him, because he got out of the crowd. The most crowded place in our cosmos is the hell states. Terribly crowded. And the most spacious place, of course, are the heavens. But ironically, the really truly spaceless space is nirvana. You can't say there is space there, there is no space. That's nirvana. True happiness. So here is where, when we go into solitary retreat, we create a space around us. We can go into a beautiful garden. Let's say the Botanic Gardens in Singapore, and there's some nice quiet corner. You have some shady trees there, beautiful flowers all around you, lots of space, the open sky, the lakes, the swans, and the animals, and the birds. And there are people around, but they don't disturb us. Because the whole place is so open, even the children are playing happily. All those sounds become so beautiful in our ears when we meditate. We're not troubled by them. And as we focus, we don't hear those sounds anymore. Because the silence in our mind is more beautiful. So once you sit in that way, you have entered into the true solitude of the Buddha's teaching. That's what is meant here. So you can do this anywhere, especially in a pleasant place. You truly be with yourself. So we need to spend this kind of time. But here the Buddha said, this person, he masters all these texts, but he does not get into meditative solitude. He does not engage in internal mental calm. See, the Pali word here, the part for this phrase, is given in note 11, Rinchati patisalanam. So here patisalana means solitude, meditative solitude. And then ajatang ceto samatang. Ajatang here means self. Ceto samata, mental calm, mental peace, if you like. Here, ajata has two senses, both apply here. One means internally, yourself. The other means you practice it yourself. You don't just talk about it, but you practice it yourself. Internal mental calm. Okay? So this idea of internal is very important. Purifying your heart and mind. Bringing inner peace to yourself. Why? Because when we study the suttas, a lot of thinking is involved. Thinking, as long as thinking is involved, it's not direct experience. You're using language, words, you're using the senses. Yes, these are the best means we have of communicating with the outer world. And the knowledge we have is very helpful, definitely. But you find other people also know a lot of things. And when we give a teaching, there might be others who disagree with us, or we have other opinions, or who might think they know better because they're great scholars, or maybe they just feel that their opinion is right. And then you find it can be very difficult talking with them, and you might feel discouraged, upset, angry even. So you have a lot of knowledge but no inner peace. But on the other hand, if you habitually practice inner solitude, you have that peace. So even the tone when you speak is peaceful. Whatever you say, people just love to listen. Maybe they didn't hear what the words that you're saying, but the peace you're conveying can be felt. I remember I used to tell this story of my one meeting with Ajahn Sumedho. He was quite a young monk then. It's like 40 years ago when I was a young monk during my first few years as a monk in Thailand. Maybe I was still a novice then, I think, in Matsakhet in Bangkok. I sat with him for 2 hours, Thai style with my leg all bent to one side, and just listened to him talking about the Vinaya. But as a forest monk, he talks very calmly, soothingly about the Vinaya for 2 hours. I remember hearing that teaching for that length. Right now I don't remember anything, all the words that he said, but I remember the peace that I felt at that time. So when we teach the Dharma, it doesn't really matter whether you have presented this Dharma exactly as found the suttas, but you have presented the spirit of the Dharma. You have declared to the world, to your audience, that the Dharma is still present, available. You can go and check these teachings for yourself. That is what you are saying when you teach the Dharma. It is not easy to be perfectly accurate in all this presentation. There's no such thing, because people will not hear 100% exactly as you said. They get a bit here, a bit there, but that is enough to inspire them, to even change their lives. But what is most important is how you present this Dharma. I often like to compare the Dharma teacher like a musical conductor, an orchestra conductor. He has to guide this so many instruments, this orchestra, to play this beautiful symphony. So when we teach the Dharma, we are doing that. We are like orchestrating, we are like conducting this beautiful music so that people feel so happy and moved by the Dharma music. So this is the meaning of inner solitude. You need inner solitude to teach, to present the Dharma. Dharma with peace. That is the meaning in this first part, right? So here the Buddha said this person, he knows lots of theoretical Dharma, but he lacks that peace with which to transmit the meaning of the teaching. Number 2, furthermore, Bhikshu, a monk teaches others the Dharma in detail, just as he has heard it, just as he has mastered it. And he passes the day making the Dharma known. Okay, here you have this really good Dharma teacher. He has heard the Dharma from other good teachers, and he has learned it himself, right? That's the meaning, right? Listening and mastering. And he spends a lot of his time teaching the Dharma. But he neglects meditative solitude. He does not engage in internal mental calm. He does not really practice it himself. So this monk is called one intent in making known, but not one who lives the Dharma, right? So in the first case, the teacher only learns the Dharma. So it's called one intent on learning the Dharma, pariyatti bahula. Pariyatti bahula, you can say heavy on learning, heavy on theory if you like, but not one who lives the Dharma. In the second case, the person is intent on making known the theory. Okay? So, panyati bahula, but not one who lives the Dharma. Right? So in other words, you are what you do. There's something missing there in this case. Now, the third kind of person, furthermore, bhikshu, a monk passes the day reciting the Dharma in detail, just as he has heard it, just as he has mastered it. He passes the way reciting it. Right? Here, in order to memorize is to recite it. It's what normally the traditional monks would do. So he's very good in reciting the Vinaya, the Dharma. So this, but he neglects meditative solitude. He does not engage in internal mental calm. This monk bhikshu is called one intent in recitation, sajjaya bahula. Okay? Not one who lives the Dharma. Right? So there you are. This is just a part of it only. It's not one who lives the Dharma. Then the fourth kind of person, furthermore bhikshus, a monk passes the day thinking and pondering in his mind, turning over in his mind the Dharma, just as he has heard it, just as he has mastered it. He passes the day thinking about the Dharma, but neglects meditative solitude. He does not engage in internal mental calm. This monk is called one intent on thinking, vitakka bahula, not one who lives the Dharma. A philosopher, if you like. Then the fifth kind, okay, this is the best one, okay. Here bhikshu, a monk learns the Dharma as the discourses with verses, the prose expositions, the verses, the inspired sayings, the thus said sayings, the birth stories, the marvelous accounts, and the catechisms. But he does not pass the day merely mastering them. Right? So it is not the only thing he does. He does not neglect meditative solitude too. He engages in internal mental calm. So in other words, he studies the Dharma, also meditates. Such a monk, bhikshu, is called one who lives the Dharma, Dhamma Vihari. There you are. Okay, so the fifth person is the one who is complete in his practice. Then we have the concluding verse, concluding section. Thus indeed, bhikshu, have I shown you the one intent on learning, the one intent on making known, the one intent on reciting, the one intent on thinking, and finally the one intent on living the Dharma. So there's 5 kinds of people. The first 4 are incomplete. The last 4, the most important thing is meditation. And then the other, when you do any of the other 4, then you are living the total Buddhist life. Then the Buddha closes with this very important reminder, which is repeated in a number of places. Bhikshu, whatever a teacher should do out of compassion for the good of disciples, for the sake of their welfare, it has been done to you by me. These bhikshus are the fruit of trees. These are empty spots. Meditate, bhikshu. Be not heedless. Regret not later. This is our instruction to you. Right, there you are. See, this is where it's very clear. The Buddha says, we all should meditate so that we can taste the teaching, so that we can truly experience the Dharma. You are listening to the Dharma now. It's a wonderful experience. I often imagine I'm on the other side of the video, listening to someone else teaching. This was one wish I had all my life as a younger person. It's a wish that was, in a sense, never really fulfilled. It ended up that I'm the one who has to teach myself and teach others the Dharma also. Of course, I have heard sutta teachings from other teachers too, both monks and lay people, and they've been very helpful, very inspiring to me too. But ultimately, we all have to study the Dharma ourselves, to deal with, to correct our wrong views, to straighten out our views, and to taste the Dharma joy of understanding. And when we know that, then we find somehow we need to teach this to others too. Bring that same joy, give that same joy to them. So that's what studying Dharma is about. It's not about knowing things, it's about being truly joyful knowing the Dharma. It is this joy that heals us, that heals others, that energizes us to move closer towards self-awakening, towards streamlining up to full awakening in due course. So the first sutta ends there. The second sutta, Dhammavihari 2, A5.74, is identical with the first sutta. Everything is the same, so we don't have to go through them because we'll be kind of repeating everything. As I said, there's only one line which is different. And that line, take for example the first one, the Buddha says, okay, monks, apparently here you have only probably the same monk, or it could be another monk asking Buddha the question. It could be on two different occasions. Here the Buddha answers, okay, there's this monk who learns all these 9 classes of teaching. Then the different line here is the Buddha says, but not going further, he understands not its meaning with wisdom. Uttaring chassa panyaya attang na pajanati. He does not go further. Now in the previous sutta, the Buddha says, but he neglects meditative solitude and does not engage in internal mental calm. So in other words, you might say in this case, the essence, more or less, the drift of the teaching is the same. Here the Buddha says, he does not go further. Further means what? In this case, something more to be done. And that something more to be done is meditation, looking within yourself. But in this sutta, we are given a hint of the meaning of what was said earlier. What is that meditation about? It is about understanding the meaning with wisdom. Not just understand the meaning, scholars do that. Scholars are very good at interpreting the suttas, but sometimes they do not do it with wisdom. In other words, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, suffering, not self, is not brought out there. So here the Pali word is panyaya, asa panyaya attang, right? In other words, we have to understand the meaning with wisdom. We understand the meaning of the sutta so that our lives are transformed, so that we are changed. Sometimes you might go for some international gathering of scholars on Buddhism, if you like. But then you find the scholars don't practice. Yeah, they're talking about Buddhism, but they drink alcohol, or they don't even know how to answer some of the questions in a Buddhist way. So you begin to wonder if they actually know Buddhism, or they're just earning a living teaching Buddhism. A lot of people do that nowadays. Buddhism is a religion. So this is where we as Buddhists have to rely on ourselves to practice the Dharma. We need to do that because it's for our own personal development. So here, we look at the Dharma within ourselves with wisdom, with insight, seeing the impermanence of all the things around us, understanding the nature of suffering, and combining both, reflecting on both, we begin to see the non-self aspect of everything. So that's the meaning of going further and understanding the meaning with wisdom, right? So this is in fact, the last part, if you like, the fifth quality, where this person or this monk studies all the different aspects of the Buddha's teaching, but going further, he understands its meaning with wisdom. Such a person is called one who lives the Dharma, right? So having said that, the sutta closes with the Buddha reminding us, meditate, bhikshu, be not heedless, regret not later. This is our instruction to you. Regret not later. When we grow too old, we say, oh, I can't meditate now, and so on. Right? So while you're young, while you're healthy, while you have the time, while things are peaceful around you, that's the time. Now is the time to practice the Dharma. So do look through these two suttas for your own personal cultivation. Now that that's closed, with a short reflection. The Dharma is still with us. This is one fact we must remember. At the same time, there are also lots of wrong Dharma going around, and we must also be aware of that and keep away, avoid them. We must be able to discern and distinguish false Dharma from true Dharma and adopt only the true Dharma. Reflecting on the true Dharma, we see that the Buddha's teaching is very simple. It goes right into the heart, and clearing away our views, removing our doubts, removing self-identity view, identifying with the self, with things, and learning to let go of being caught up with rituals and superstition. Then we free our minds and look within in peace and clarity. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma. By the power of such karma, may we find peace and happiness in this life itself. By the power of all the good we have done, keeping the precepts, practicing generosity, teaching the Dharma, and many other good things. May we attain spiritual liberation, especially stream winning in this life itself. And also, in this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to all our teachers, to all those people we care for. May they be well, may they be happy. And those whom the Dharma have not touched, may they too see the Dharma for themselves and attain an understanding that will liberate them from ignorance and suffering. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.